Hey everyone, finish watching the next episode of Beetleborgs, The Phantom of Hilhurst. An old friend of Flabber has come to visit. He's the Phantom of the Paris Opera. The opera house burned down and he needs a place to stay. He assures Flabber he only needs to stay until he finishes his latest opera. All about his lost love, Christine. The kids come to see Flabber. Jo is going to be singing at a school contest, and she doesn't think she can sing very well. She demonstrates her singing ability for Flabber, and it's so off tune it throws everyone except for the Phantom. Jo looks just like Christine did as a kid. The next day, the Phantom appears and kidnaps Jo. He takes her to Hilhurst and tells her he's going to make her the star of his new opera. Jo tries to escape, but he hypnotizes her to stay. As Zoom Comics, Van and Trip get into shenanigans. Drew and Roland meet with Jo. She's acting sleepy and distant. Later, Jo is nowhere to be found. Drew and Roland think the Magnivores may have kidnapped her. They run out to the desert and find the Magnivores just scurrying around. They demand to know where Jo is, but the Magnivores just call the jet fighters and slip away. Jo is actually still with the Phantom. He's dressed her up like Christine, and she's rehearsing her song for him. Her singing has gotten much better. The Phantom now wants to take Jo with him back to Europe. Flabber tries to convince the Phantom to lift his spell on Jo, and they get into a magic duel, turning each other into things. Flabber decides to come up with a plan to save Jo. He calls the kids to Hilhurst. Drew and Roland try to stop Phantom from leaving when suddenly Flabber shows up with the real Christine. Phantom takes her hand and disappears with her. His spell over Jo is lifted, and she's confused as to what happened. Despite the spell being lifted, Jo retained her new singing skills and wins the contest. The monsters all come in and show off their own singing. They were inspired by the Phantom to become a barbershop quartet. This is a great classic-feeling episode. It's a horror film homage, something Beetleborgs usually does pretty well. The titular Phantom looks pretty good with Lon Chaney Sr.-inspired makeup. His outfit works fine. I would have liked if he dressed in his Red Death costume from the old silent film's famous color segment. The plot has aged kinda weird in a way I don't think was intended. The Phantom obsessing over Jo, who's 10 years old, comes off pretty creepy. The show does make it clear, however, that he's aware Jo is not Christine, and he's more interested in her potential talent than anything. Curiously, in a few episodes, Jo's actress will leave. I'm wondering if maybe this episode started as a way out for her. If the Phantom was established more as a talent scout type of character, there could be a plot with him wanting to tour the world with her as a star. It would be similar to Kimberly's departure from Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, where an Olympics coach wants to train her and she decides to retire from being a ranger to train with him. This kind of story worked much smoother with Kim since she was probably already an adult or nearly an adult while Jo wasn't even 13. I'm a big fan of the old Phantom of the Opera silent film, so I enjoyed the opening scene of Flabber approaching a mysterious organ player and removing the mask to reveal their screaming face. The scene was also homaged in Power Rangers Zeo when Adam finds Skull playing on a piano. These two episodes would have been made around the same time. I wonder if someone behind the scenes was a fan as well. In a subversion of expectations, there's no new Magnivore monster this time. Jara is holding a Beetleborgs comic, but doesn't summon anything from it. It's kinda neat to see what they do when they're not plotting something evil. Jara is just reading, Noxic and Typhus are playing rock, paper, scissors. They also went out for pizza and apparently were treated perfectly normal by the staff. Van and Trip get some silly moments, and they really feel tacked on here. I think maybe they should have just been cut and instead expand more on Phantom and Jo's interaction. There's one really glaring issue with this episode at the end. Flabber shows up with Christine. How? It feels like it's building to a gag, but it doesn't. I thought Flabber would reveal that he found her by looking in a phone book or something. The Phantom was played by Ken Merkex, also known as Ken Merchex and Ken Ring. He was a voice actor for many Saban productions. He's best known as Count Dragon from Masked Rider. In Power Rangers, he was Repellitor, Waspicable, and Nazor, as well as many others, and had an on-screen recurring role in Time Force as Dr. Zaskin. An interesting role of his, he was the original Orgasmo in the Trey Parker, Matt Stone film Orgasmo. He's also a stunt and fight coordinator. Christine's brief adult appearance was portrayed by Kylie Cochran. She was an actress with regular roles up until 2013, and now seems to be mostly involved behind the scenes. Great episode, half-baked ending, but fun overall. That's it for this one. Hope you enjoyed it. See ya.
Double bat wing and night crawler pizza. Double bat wing and night crawler pizza. Double bat wing and night crawler pizza. Double bat wing and night crawler pizza.